This is Raspberry Lemonade, the Arnold Palmer of podcasts, a refreshing dive into the stories of industry professionals, both sweet and sour. And now your host, Mr. Levi.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Raspberry Lemonade. Your host, Levi. I'm here with Jason Ortiz today. Say hi to the folks out there.
Hey, welcome, guys. It's Jason here, Tree of Photography. I'm excited for this interview, man.
Dude, it's awesome having you here. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I know you're a very busy man. You know, you take pictures for like the elite in Hollywood, and
only the best. I'm just kidding. I wish.
Hey, maybe you'll get there, right?
Maybe. Yeah. That's a plan. You know, we start humble, and then we gotta kind of keep it pushing.
Exactly, that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
So let's get right into it, man. I like to ask the guests, some of the same questions, but obviously every guest has a different response and different story, and that's what we're here to discuss. So, in your case, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Yeah, so to not drag it on, because I can talk about my whole upbringing and all that, which maybe we can get into details on that. But I guess, my business, Tree of Photography, as the name denotes, it's photography. Now, as of recently, I've been trying to get into videography and kind of just doing like little snippets and highlights of whether it's weddings, events, also like marketing stuff recently too with some other companies that I've been collabing with. Like all of that has been incorporated into Tree of Photography as just the alias. But yeah, as the name denotes, photography, videography, marketing, just even consulting low key, like other small businesses like, hey, Jason, what do you think could help my business grow? Oh, here you go. Use this kind of angle photography, or I'll go in there and take some shots and say, hey, you can emulate this for your business. So it's all a mix of just community building and networking within photography, of course.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think the Tree of Photography really encapsulates that whole networking aspect then, because it's like you start here and then you connect yourself over there. It's kind of like a tree branch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you'll know more about it because obviously we go way back with poetry. And it was called Tree of Poetry back then. And that also encapsulated everything that you just mentioned, like just branching out to different topics and poetry and poems and people and stories. So then when I started my photography, it was because of poetry, actually, because I wanted to have a picture behind my words on the posts, specifically on Instagram. And I would take random photos with my phone or my camera that I bought at college. And then I would just take a picture of a leaf, for example. And I thought it was a cool leaf. I'll use it behind the poem, and it'll encapsulate or it'll basically elaborate more on the poem based on the photo too. And yeah, and then Tree of Photography came about because of that.
Flashbacks.
Traumas. I'm just kidding.
And honestly, we were both going through it at the time. But I actually really always appreciated that about your post, because even nowadays, like I've been out of that scene for a while, but I'll still run into like a random poet on Instagram or whatever, and it's still just like a white or black background, white or black letters, usually a typewriter font.
Exactly.
Which
type of poetry.
Yeah, which I mean, I gotta be honest, like I fell into that trap at some point too, but yeah, that's something I really appreciated about your posts. And it's cool that you've now really gone full on into the photography side of things.
Exactly.
And like, do you still write?
Yeah, no. So on the side I write. I mean, I'm, as you know, and I know you published a book too. I published a book recently too, or not recently, but back then. I want to publish another one from poetry, but that's more like me.
That's
and then
cool.
Share it to the world through that end. But yeah, I've been writing on my end. Not too cheesy or any depressed poetry anymore. It's more like what I go through day by day and just making it more vivid through words. But I think photography basically is another way of expressing what I've been going through recently too, or the daily things that I do. So I think photography and poetry have, basically meshed, where like I'm able to tell somebody's story through photography, or tell a brand story, or tell my story, or a wedding story, whatever it is. I think it emulates the poetry that we come from as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, but yeah, writing is still there, but just not publicized anymore.
Gotcha, man. Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't written as much anymore.
But sometimes you do.
Here and there, like, a strike of inspiration comes, or maybe something that I'm experiencing, kind of like you're saying, a certain moment that I was like, I don't want to forget this.
Exactly.
And I want to put it into the best words possible, or kind of colorful words, you know,
There you go.
to express that feeling or whatever it is. Yeah, dude, like the fact that you brought that up, like I had forgotten that I had honestly, like it's a part of my life that for a while it wasn't that great. Let's just put it that way.
I hear you, man. No, I get you. I mean, that's why we kind of both went into that. I would say a spiral. There's a spiral at one point. You just get stuck in emotions and stuff. And I realized that back then, like a lot of these, because obviously pop poetry was more popular or prevalent back then, at least based on our algorithm, at least. So I would look at other people's posts. I'm like, dude, people are depressed or sad or going through it, right?
Yeah.
But like now I see that you're more positive. Like, let's keep it going, which is good. You know, you're out of that hole. You're still, like you said, capturing through words positivity and like cool emotions. But yeah, I think we were in a spiral at one point.
Yeah, dude, it was something for sure. And then we were younger too.
Yeah, we were younger, and you know, I don't know what we were doing, but we did it. And I think that's a cool like story for you to tell, you know, because that's like a good phase. It's not a bad phase, I would think. Like,
I don't think so.
In the space of poetry, like you were dope, like you were somebody, you know, which is good.
Yeah,
it's good to be a positive influence in a space. So I think you were doing great things. You influenced me, for example. I know you influenced the other poets. I bet when you were out in like a party or like at an event, they would say, "Oh, you're that poet, right?"
El poeta.
Didn't they ever mention that to you?
They still, some of them still do. Like, "Hey, el poeta."
Exactly, and that's like, I don't know how you feel about it now. Maybe you're like, that's kind of cheesy, but nah, dude, you left a good legacy. I think it's good.
Link in the description for my books now.
Amazon's still there? Is it still on Amazon?
I think it is, actually. Dude, I haven't checked it in forever.
I think I had you guys bookmarked, you and the other writer. But yeah, no, I still find it interesting.
Aside from, you know, you starting to introduce it in your writing and in the posts at the time, how would you say you really got into photography, or what was that pivotal moment for you?
Yes, I was a junior in college at UCI, and at the time I had bought the camera, so I bought it off a dude like off OfferUp and UCI, like for $300 a camera, T3i. For those that want to start like photography, that's like a good starter camera. It's like cheap now; it's like $200. You can buy it off anybody, and it's a good camera. You know, obviously iPhones and new phones can manage the same thing, but you don't want to pull up to like an event with the iPhone.
Right.
It does good work though, nevertheless, but I think, having a camera, that's a good starter one. My suggestion to everybody out there. But yeah, I bought it off a guy. He had like 2 lenses on it, a 50 millimeter and just the kit lens, which is 15-55, which is the standard one that it comes with. And I started using it for poetry, like we were mentioning. But at the time too, I'm like, you know what? Let me just take pictures of UCI in general. Just there's a bridge there. There's a lot of grass in UCI. So I was like, you know what? This is a pretty place to take pictures of, to utilize it for my poetry, bringing it back to that. But also just to have like just post, you know, back then Instagram, you post anything. Like you go to a coffee shop, you'd post it. Now there's stories, so that just disappears in 24 hours. Back then you just post, I went to McDonald's and got a frap, and you would post it as a post. Yeah. So back then I would just post a little flower and say, oh, look at this nice flower. And then one time my friend that was graduating at the time needed just asked around like, hey, do you know anybody that takes graduation photo shoots? And I'm all like, no, I don't know anybody. I really didn't. I didn't even think about that. But I'm like, but I have a camera. I'm down to take some photos of you. And at the time I was already practicing with like my sister, like when we go to the beach or like out and about, my brother too, my mom, just casual photos that you would take. And I'm like, you know what? I think I can take photos of people. So I started taking photos of people. And I offered it to my friend. And she's all like, oh, wow, these are nice. Let me post them. Right. And then I'm like, yeah, thank you. You know, I charge her like $50, which is nothing back then.
Still
for a college student, is a lot.
It's really,
but now, that's nothing really. $50. You know, we be charging more nowadays. You know, and we'll talk about how that translates to business. But basically, I charge them $50 out of just like whatever. You know, I didn't even know what to charge back then. Yeah, I was like, oh, just shoot me $50 or buy me Chick-fil-A. You know, whatever. So she's like, oh no, here's $50. Perfect. You know, I had food for the week. I was like, awesome. And I'm like, you know what, this is cool. So word got around that okay, Jason does photography. So I did another 2 shots or shoots that same summer. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is cool. Like I can make money. Yeah. And I told you guys, I invested like $300 for that camera. I'm like, wait, I'm making my money back off that camera. This is dope. Something in business now, you know, like, wow, I can make money off of my photography. So, you know what? I'm like, I was still a student back then. Squarespace had like you get a year off or a free year for Squarespace, which is like a website hosting platform. So like, you know what, I'll make my website, make myself legit. I'll make my page too, Tree of Photography, start posting all my random photos that I had mentioned and people's photos. And it became more official. And now it's at where it's at, It's just been photographing. Because if you scroll all the way down to my first page post, you'll see the transition of like a leaf or like a random statue to now like people and like events and stuff. So you can see the gradual transition. And it's interesting. I sometimes do till this day still scroll all the way down and see where I started, like 2016. And say like, wow, okay, like I had the vision, I'm improving. You can see yourself improve, Yeah. So that was something where I officially started my business off college graduation photo shoots. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. And I think that it's really cool that you've kept the account that long too. Mm-hmm. I've been the one that kind of like wants to start fresh every time I do something new.
Yeah.
So this time around, like I actually for once I kind of followed in your footsteps. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something new, but like, it's okay. Like people can stay on, and like I don't need to necessarily start a new account.
Exactly.
And lost some followers still, which kind of hurts actually, because some of them, it's people I know, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I'd be
but it was cool to also see other people that maybe for whatever reason or another, like we weren't following each other, or that they knew me and they hadn't followed me at the time, but then seeing a random name that's like, oh wait, I know that person. That's cool. Like they're following the journey now. Yeah,
exactly. That's true. And I think that's funny because and I always say this. It is a weird phrase and it's kind of negative, but it's like sometimes be your own, which means that like the closest people you think are closer to you won't support your business. Yeah, will not like listen to your stuff. We even had that with our podcast previously, where people wouldn't. We thought like. Like, wow, you guys are super close to us. We hang out every weekend. Like, you guys don't listen to our stuff. Yeah. But then other people do that maybe admire us from a different lens, or they're not part of the same social network. But they happen to listen about a certain topic or a certain guest. And then they're the ones listening and chiming in. That's okay. Like you lose some, you win some. But at the end of the day, like just consistency, I think is key. And I think that's what photography for me too. Like I try to post 3 posts of the same photo shoot every time. So that way there's consistency, and usually 1 picture every day, 1 picture every 2 days. So 3 a week. So that way they see, okay, this person is posting not every day, but consistently, and they won't forget about you, as a marketer. But yeah, yourself too, like I see your post, I see you on your story. I think that's good because that reminds us like, oh, Levi has, a thing going on. And first instinct for humankind, I don't know what it is, like hate on it a little bit. But then no, like you have to value it, especially as fellow entrepreneurs. Like you have to be like, wow, he's on his game. You got to support it, and that's where we're at, man. We got to support you.
Thank you, dude. Yeah, likewise. Like I still see you doing stuff. I'm going to look out for more like videos, because you mentioned that you're doing videos now.
Doing videos now, man. Yeah. That's so cool. We're doing one soon. So we have a wedding coming up soon, and you might know them actually, but we're doing a wedding December 10th. I invite another videographer to come and support, just so he can get some experience. But also like marketing, like this county brand that we're doing with, just marketing on that end. I'm a model there too, low key improv, just as a photographer / model, just because they need bodies,
Nah, bro, you're good looking. Don't sell yourself short.
All right, man. I try trying to boost my ego a little bit, but and also like just marketing for like taquerias. Right now we're doing a lot of things for that, which is behind closed doors, meaning like it's not me in the front or it's not my brand in the front, but I'm doing the work, and then we just push it through their mediums. But you get paid at the end of the day. That's kind of like
that's awesome.
What business is, like sometimes you'll be your work will be showing and you'll be tagged and you'll be like promoted, but sometimes you just gotta go out of your way and do something different, Yeah. So I'm just trying to experiment on that, like taking photos of carne, taking photos of tacos, versus or hats or shirts versus it's just people's faces and events. Just trying to diversify my portfolio.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I think that's a great idea too. It sounds kind of like you're you are doing it. Like you're doing kind of what's it called? Like social media, not management necessarily, but kind of content creation for other accounts, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because as a photographer, obviously you have your own content creation that you have to have so you can push and promote, and people like, oh, I like his style. But also like you need to survive, so you need to make money. Sometimes you got to push that way too, Yeah. And when the time comes to bring it back to you, like you have customers, and through those mediums you can tell. el taquero, like, hey, si su hija se va a casar, here you go, you know, here's my card. Hire me as a photographer. So you're also networking there, you know?
Yeah.
So it makes sense, yeah.
Dang, dude. That's really smart. People take notes.
Yeah,
Follow this guy for more advice.
Take your cards everywhere. Like if you have, well, that's another thing too. Bring cards because you have to have something that looks nice and has your information, your social media. And then that way they can follow you, you know, because people still want physical things. You can send them a link and whatnot, pero si son más anticuados, a little bit older, they might just want a card and they'll reach out to you. Trust me, it's happened. Like, hey, can you do my daughter's wedding? Can you do my daughter's, I don't know, quince, whatever, you know, like, well, you know, it is what it is. You have to do it because it's money.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. And I'm going to take your word for that on that because I have this like, it's called Popple. I don't know if you heard of it.
No, what is that?
It's like it's a wristband you wear and like you tap the phone and your info pops up.
Oh, okay, there you go.
But yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot of people's contact info and we've, you know, followed people and followed back and stuff like that. But a lot of times, yeah, like unless they have something physical, they're not going to remember you.
It's old school, man. Because even now I work at the school district and parents don't know how to open QR codes. It's crazy. Like you have to train them, you know, and through church, we've seen that too. But it's interesting to see that you still have to be more accommodating to certain demographics. Sure, the young people definitely can do QR codes and the Popple or, you know, the card. But at the end of the day, something tangible for them just to have or reference at one point. Just being adaptive, you know, adaptivo to different situations and understand your crowd, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, all right, awesome. Kind of moving on now, and as far as your experience with photography, what's been something that you've gone through so far that you're like, man, that kind of sucked, or like a sour story we like to say here on the show?
Yeah, no,
that you've experienced.
Yeah, no, I mean, one piece of advice is like always have a contract. Like a contract is key, man. Whether you have models or you have like a business plan or you have some type of project, you got to secure a contract because sometimes you got to go savage mode, you know, and threaten people like, hey, you don't pay me, I'm not going to give you your content. So I have two stories, but I'm not going to throw people under the bus, but
we got time.
Yeah, we got time. Okay. No, one of them still paying me, you know. It's another sad story, you know, and I had to bring in some law into it, but that's another story. But the one story I do want to talk, because it's been handled already, I was working for an academy, a sports academy, and I was supposed to do, well, I did do, that's the thing, I did do video and photos for their basketball team. They even played like Kanye West team, the Dubs, the Donda team. So they were pretty big, you know, and I'm assuming, they're big that way and they're able to afford, you know, housing for these athletes and cars and rentals and travel the world. Like they can pay me for the marketing stuff that I'm doing, you know. So that's kind of how I got networked into that. And at the end of the day, no, I forgot to write a contract. I thought it was word of mouth because I heard it from a friend, and my friend put me in. And honestly, it was a tough situation because they were working me like a dog. They were like, "Hey, Jason, we need this. Hey, Jason, we need this. Hey, Jason, send this." And I was a tech guy basically. I was also like the marketer. I was the one doing flyers. I was the one doing everything. I even had a homie or a friend come in and support me because I was overwhelmed. I'm like, hey, bro, you'll get paid. That person didn't get paid either. So now it's my name tainting for him. It's like, hey, Jason brought me into this. And it was a whole debacle, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, I was like, you know what? I had access to all their social media and all their website stuff. I could easily been petty, you know, and just cancel everything and say, I don't know, troll you guys or something.
Yeah.
Put something inappropriate online. No, I'm just kidding. I would never do that. But
like Kanye. Well, I mean, could you really do that to Kanye at this point, though?
Nah, he's canceled himself. You know, but basically, yeah, he's trolling. But me, I'm like, no, you know what? I'm gonna be the bigger person. You know, have some standards, some morals. You know what? I'm just gonna write a professional email with the help of my mentor. We came up with the email saying, hey, your terms of services have been canceled. We're not gonna move on helping you anymore with your website. I even started a website for them. Created it all, made it all interface and everything. And
that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, dude. I'm telling you, I would sleep till 1 or 2. My mom would be like, hey, mijo, ya duérmete.
Shoot.
And I was so stressed out because I want to respect the person that brought me into the gig. Like, I want to give a good name to that person because it's a mentor. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? And this is a good learning opportunity for me. So I was like, all right, I'll use it as that. And in the beginning, there was some money. But at the end of the day, yeah, they owed me like, I'll just say it's like in the thousands.
Shoot.
And recently they just said, hey, Jason, like, we don't have the money. I'm like, no way. But whatever. They paid me some of it, but I was just so happy to like it ended.
Yeah.
I'm like, from there on, I'm like, I'm gonna have a contract for everything I need. And yeah, I've been doing that since.
Dang.
Not that I didn't have contracts before. It was just like, let's say it was somebody that I had full faith that they were gonna pay, then I wouldn't do a contract because of, maybe in their same church, or they're people that I know and they can never escape me,
Yeah.
then I know where to find them, kind of thing. But yeah, these people were new people. I didn't know who they were. And yeah, I needed to have a contract in place, and I didn't, formally at least. There was a word of mouth kind of thing, like, hey, Jason, yeah, we'll pay you.
Yeah.
But there was never nothing on writing.
Yeah.
So that's where I need to learn, like, have an email, have an account. So I had to download. So now I invested into like an invoice system. I invested into a transaction system online. So that way, like, I can just send invoices to people and like it's all set up for me. Like payment period. Like if they want to do payments, that's fine. There's like a penalty, like stuff like that. So that way I'm not look bad, and it makes me help, and actually helps the business because it makes it seem more professional and realistic. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of a learning process. Yeah.
So the importance of writing up contracts,
bro. And then same thing with like photography. There's a lot of freelance stuff. Maybe you have a model in mind. Like, let's say you, right? Like, all right, you're a good looking guy. I want you to model something that I'm working with. And I have your word. Like, hey, Jason, I'll pull up at 4 p.m. on Saturday. And the brand is waiting for you. I'm waiting for you. And you don't pull up. You don't have any liability because you didn't sign anything. So you can just cancel, really. Maybe we might end in bad blood, but that's another topic. But in reality, business-wise, there's no contract, so I can't hold you liable to it.
Exactly.
So that's where we kind of learn, and I told this business too, like, hey, like now let's use contracts because learn from my experience,
Yeah. Sure.
And that's just advice to the public too. Yeah, write a contract every time.
Always. My dad says el papelito habla.
El papelito, yeah. It's the end all be all, yeah. And be specific too. Because for weddings too, like I'm telling you, today I wrote an email to a client that we're doing the wedding for, and the wedding changes every so often. Like maybe 2 days before something changes, like I want to change it up in the contract, so that way like they're not you didn't get this photo, you didn't get this shot. We didn't have it in the contract. I'm sorry.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know what to tell you. That never happened. It never existed.
Yeah.
But it's just that. It's just being straight up.
Yeah. Straight up. Covering your bases, all that
bases,
stuff.
Exactly.
Good advice. Now kind of flipping it over.
Yeah.
What's been one of the most amazing experiences that you've had so far? Kind of now the sweet story that we like to cover on this podcast.
No, I like that. No, so yeah, definitely the more branded you become, so people like, oh, you're Tree of Photography, which is weird. I don't know somebody calling you that. Maybe somebody called you like by your poetry name, like back then people say, oh, you're Tree of Poetry. I'm not Tree of Poetry, but that's my username. Now they call me J all the way, like all the homies say, oh, you're J all the way. That's my personal Instagram. But my photography, like, oh, you're the guy that does photography. I'm like, yeah. So based on that, you become with a little bit of, notoriety or fame, I guess, in a way where like you're known as a photography, which I don't like that because everybody puts me in a corner like, oh, you're the photography guy. Yeah. No, but I'm trying to do other things, That's why I am doing all these other things, because I want to deviate it from just a stereotype like, oh, he just does photography. Like, no, I do like beats too, I like soccer, like I like a lot of other things that make me.
Yeah.
But something that I do like is that they feel trusted, that thanks to my personality that God has given me, like I think that is something that helps the business, because then you build friendships, and then those friends then recommend you to other people, and it's just word of mouth mostly. Because I haven't invested really anything on marketing other than time, which is worth a lot too. But yeah, when people say, hey, Jason, like I have a friend that would like for you to do their wedding, like they saw your photos and we'd like to, hire you, for example, like that's awesome. I love to hear that. And that's kind of how we came about a lot of these gigs, specifically with marketing stuff. Like it's just, they like who I am as a person, and then the business comes with it, So I guess the success story or happy story would be like working with the county brand. Like he was one of the podcast guests from we had before.
I remember.
Yeah, he was one of the first ones. And then also too, like he's been using my photography for his marketing, and then we just became really close friends, and now it's like I have a stake in his brand. He hits me up sometimes and says, hey, what do you think about this, or how can we use this, or like what do you think about that? And I'm able to give him some feedback, based on my expertise. Obviously I'm not the end all be all, but I can give him another opinion, which is wise for him to hear. Because people might just be, kissing his butt and saying, hey, like, this is great. But sometimes I like being honest. Yeah. I'm like, hey, bro, nah, that's not looks good. Or, hey, you're just kind of skewing your branding to a certain demographic. Like, why don't you appeal to this other demographic or open it up for discussion? And he's like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. So just being able to be myself within my industry, which is good. And I think that helps a lot, the branding, because I rather have kind of like the cheesy phrase of, you know, it's about quality, not over quantity.
Always though.
Yeah. Like my numbers on Instagram might not be super high. I have like almost 1,000 followers, but they're nice. Good people. No, but it's been, like you said, you know, earlier, like it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years in the process. So it's from those people that, you know, we typically start off with our personal followers that we know in a personal setting. But then that's other people that have liked my photos and throughout this time, and they've hired me, and then they share my posts or my stories or my photos that I've taken, and then other people like it, and then it's just very organic. I'd rather have that than buy followers or market it that way or buy likes, just for people to be like, oh, he's popular, let me go. Which kind of sucks in this society nowadays because it's very popular driven. So if they see for example, like if they see a page that has 950 followers versus a page that has 10,000 followers, who do you think they'll hire?
They'll usually go for the 10K.
They'll go for the 10K, which is marketing strategy. Yeah. Hey, props to the guy with 10K, right? Or the girl with 10K. Good for them. But for me, I'm like, I'll keep it humble. And another thing too is like, I'm not doing it full time. So it's okay, you know? It's okay. Yeah. Like I don't need to be having every weekend booked because now I'm dating. Now I'm doing other stuff, like church related stuff, just fun stuff that I want to do just because we're young. So I don't have really time to be fully invested into it. But that's where the plan is, you know, to make it a full-time thing. Which is going pretty well. Like I'm telling you, I have a gig every other 2 weeks that can cover my bills. So I think it's that's pretty great. Good. Yeah, I think it works. So like anybody that wants to pick up a side hustle, I think photography is a good one. As long as you're willing to invest and learn like the camera settings and all of that stuff, I think that is a good investment of time. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah. And so anyone out there, if you want to start taking pictures, taking photography, it's a good way to go about things.
Exactly.
And I think, dude, I see it already. Like it's going in that direction. You know, you said that's your goal to make your full-time thing.
Exactly.
I know for a fact you're going to make it happen.
Yeah, man. I hope so. I mean, now that I'm dating, even my girl, like she does photography too. A little bit less than me, but I see her vision and I like her photos myself. As a photographer, I'm more critical. So I like her photos and I'm like, no, like, hey, somebody wants to hire you. Like recently, yesterday, one of her friends wanted a photo portrait session for her kid. And they asked me like, what she recommended me, obviously as my girl. She's like, oh yeah, Jason does photography. How much does he charge? The lady asked. And I said, I'm doing my marketing right now is $200 for a photo session. Just because I see other photographers, they be charging more, you know?
Yeah.
Some less, some more. So I'm in the mid. And they're like, oh, that's a lot. Do they have a homie discount? And I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't know them, but I'm like, I'll do 180 then. And then I guess the lady didn't want to, so she still has options. So I told, hey, her name's Kathy, my girl. Like, hey, like market yourself, like put yourself in there. Like if you're not gonna charge that much, if you feel that's too much, then you. So I guess she got hired, so that's good. You know, like she's able to then have her money. I'm like, then you take me out to dinner, you know?
Yeah,
exactly. Like, hey, you know, reciprocate the love. I marketed you. Now, hey, you know, take me to chocolate
Chick-fil-A
or something. I don't know, something. But no, it's funny that I'm motivated. Like me, it's not competition for me. Like having other photographers around, because there's like 5 photographers that I know within my even social network. And I'm happy when they get gigs. You know, some people say, "Oh, that's your competition." I'm like, no, there's never competition. No. Like they're just different styles and people want different styles, and that's okay. Exactly. They like her style, they like his style. Perfect, you know.
Would you say that's like a scarcity mindset?
Scarcity, doggy world. Kinda, yeah.
Which, you see it, and yes, it happens, and obviously you still want to, you know, look out for yourself at the end of the day, but collaboration over anything, you know, because down the line, I don't know, maybe these that are your competition, quote unquote, maybe you guys collab on something bigger, a bigger project or something.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. Like me, maybe I'm just, people might say, oh, he's not hungry enough, you know, he doesn't want the money or something, but it's never about the money, you know, it's about being able to see people's story and sharing like the emotional, when it's a wedding and you're able to be there, like that's awesome. But then I do admire other photographers, you know, like I don't get jealous, like, oh, there's no such thing as they have better photos. They might have better setup or better, maybe a camera.
Yeah.
But it's their vision, you know, it's like their aesthetic. It's their filters that they use. Like everybody has their own aesthetic. So I like my own aesthetic. Obviously, you have to have confidence, but sometimes I'm not the one that they're looking for, you know? So it's okay. then me, I'm like, hey, but there's another photographer that I know, or maybe my price is in the price range of what they're looking for. Maybe this other photographer I can refer, they also get to eat,
Yeah.
And then it's all about sharing. I've had times where like I'm in a trip, and I tell another photographer like, hey, I can't do this gig. They want me to do it, but they asked me to ask for any other photographer, and then I was able to refer my fellow photographer, and they got the gig. And there you go, they're able to have more content on their social media. They're able to get following. They get experience. It's all about winning,
Yeah.
It's winning as a team. But yeah, when it becomes scarcity mindset, it's scary because I'm like, bro, it's okay. It's okay. Like, there's no need to argue over gigs or stuff like that. It's all love for me, at least. Yeah, I'm too old to be arguing.
Yeah, no, that's for the little kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's some mean girl stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. I just realized that completely skimmed over.
Oh, what happened, bro?
We didn't really talk about your upbringing or anything. That's my fault as a host. My bad.
Nah, I
got too excited to hear like where you're at, what you're up to. But let's touch on that real quick. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing, where you come from, and how it influenced who you've become today.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's this phrase called that. You probably heard it. The past is a present for the future.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I haven't heard it like that.
No,
I've heard a
it's-
version of that.
Yeah, there's several versions out there like that. But yeah, when I think about I'm very nostalgic. So when I think about the past, I don't just get stuck there anymore. Like, I think about it as how can I apply it today, all the lessons I've learned, and then how can I improve it for my future. And I think, I was born here in California, Orange, and then as soon as I was like 2 or 3 years old, they shipped me out to Mexico. I grew up in Cancun, which people say, it's not bad.
Oh,
But it was like, let's say people that live in Orange County, basically, it's like people think Cancun, Playa del Carmen is like, let's say Newport Beach, right? Well, I lived in Anaheim of Newport Beach, so far away from that. So
gotcha.
I lived in inland more. Un barrio, But honestly, like me, maybe my traumas and all that from Mexico, I don't remember because my mom be telling me like, hey, your grandpa did this or your grandma was like this to you. I don't remember any of that. I just remember the positive stuff. I remember my grandma would take me out to the beach and I guess this is where photography comes because she always had like a Polaroid camera and she always would take photos like, hey, Jason, ponte ahí al lado de las muchachas. And I'm like, oh, son muchachas, whatever. Little do I know, bro, it was like a nude beach.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
I'm like, why am my grandma tripping like that? And I have photos of that in Mexico. I'm like, wait, why am I standing next to 2 tall white ladies that are, topless? It's weird. It's weird, bro. Like my grandma, I don't know what she was thinking as a kid. I don't remember that. I don't remember seeing the nude. It was just I remember I was standing next to people.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
I mean, you were still innocent.
I was innocent,
Yeah.
bro. There was no like no malice in me yet. And yeah, it was interesting. And we would go play. There was like arcade games over there at the beach too, and then theater and all that. Like I just remember that positive side of things. Or like I remember back then, like my grandpa coming home and like bringing me a little like Lego set or like un carrito de Hot Wheels.
Nice.
I remember all of that stuff. So I remember seeing that, and like I said, the Polaroid pictures. Recently, a friend went to Mexico because I haven't been to Mexico since then. Since I came back when I was 10. She brought a bunch of photos because she had her honeymoon in Cancun. So I told her like, hey, can you pass by my grandma's house to pick up photos when you guys come back? So she did. She brought all these pictures, and it kind of reopened my imagination to like the types of photos that my grandma would take. And just, it was interesting. So I even bought like 2 Polaroids just for like weddings and stuff, just to have that embrace, because Polaroids kind of give it a little different touch. So just to add it to the package,
Yeah, I think with Polaroids, it really gives it that nostalgic feel,
yeah,
which
exactly.
you really love, and I share that with you. Yeah.
So it's like, hey, all right, guys, let's have a alone moment with the bride and groom. Let's go outside and let's take a Polaroid photo. And I gave it to them right there and then, and you can see their smiles, and it's like, wow, like that's what I felt when my grandma would give me the Polaroid, like, hey, mijo, ten tu foto.
Yeah.
And I would just keep it in my pocket. So that's kind of, I guess, subconsciously, that's where the photography started. Now that I think about it, now that you're making me think, bro, I didn't even think about it that way, but
that's what I was thinking, honestly.
That's
like
interesting.
you already had like what's the word? Antepasados.
Yeah.
You kind of already had that in your blood, maybe, through your grandma.
Exactly.
That you wanted to take
interesting,
photography.
bro. Hey, that's good. Hey, you're making me self-explore right now, bro. I appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, then I came back to the U.S. and from Mexico when I was 10. Didn't know any English. I started here 3rd grade. I was ELD student, and yeah, I mean, the only way I could like express myself was just through like interpreter, you know, like another kid that was, you know, Mexican American as well, and he would translate for me. And since then I've been here in the United States, growing up in Anaheim, Placencia, like that area, and I think that's where I met a lot of cool people that, you know, also like photography, poetry, like yourself, any other like just self-expressing art. I think that's something that I've kept to this day, and I don't want to ever leave, which is imagination. Like, you do need photography. For photography, you do need imagination, you know? Same thing through word writing or through like painting, like the imagination. Because I'm 27 now, bro. I don't know how old are you? 27?
Yeah, we're 20.
Yeah, exactly.
27.
So, you know, I still think like you and I, like the fact that we're even doing this, like this is part of the imagination process. Like, we can just easily not be here and just be like watching TV, you know? Which is fine. We do that too as well. But what I'm trying to say is like, we're still thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from that. My grandma, those kids that I hung around with in the hood, like my old colleagues. And then at that point, you know, now making it into monetization, which is business. So yeah, I think that has happened till in college when I started exploring photography there, for different reasons, like we mentioned already in the podcast. Like it's interesting to see the evolution of it. Where like I personally don't want to ever like just think of it as a job. Like, oh dang, I have to go to a photo shoot and take photos of people. Like, no, like I wanna be soaked in that environment, you know, and soaked by the happiness and looking at their eyes. It might be weird maybe because I'm looking into them and they're all in love, but I'm thinking like, wow, they're so in love and it's so beautiful. It's like a love story right in front of me, like a movie, you know. And maybe from their perspective, like, damn, this guy is a creep. But that's why I have the camera, you know, so I kind of play it off. But it's not even that. It's more like you embrace their embrace, and then you're able to then capture it forever, you know, through a photo. And it's cool to see like the followers that use their profile picture as the photos that I've taken.
Yeah.
And it's awesome because I have like several that use those photos that I took particular, and they keep it as their profile picture. I'm like, wow, that means they stuck to them. Obviously for them it did, because it was their special moment or their special branding or marketing, and then they utilize it. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Like I had a touch in their lives, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is cool.
Yeah, you had a part in that piece of that pie.
Yeah. Like I had influence in something, you know, and that's awesome. Like you're gonna influence people through this podcast. You know, you've influenced other people through other businesses, whether you know it or not. Like you'll probably talk to somebody 10 years from now and say, hey, I heard this about you, or hey, I heard you did this. And then they're doing their own thing now, and like, you had that little touch in their life. It's crazy to see that, you know, those ripple effects.
It's funny you mentioned that, dude. Just this last week, and this is kind of just me talking to you as a friend.
Yeah.
I ran into. So I used to work at Long Beach Unified.
Okay.
And I was like a TA there, right? And I ran into one of those students.
Ayo.
Just like super random, right? And it was a girl. She was like, Mr. Levi. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, how are you? She's like an adult now. It's like crazy and insane. And she mentioned something that just completely like melted my heart.
What did she say?
She was like, you don't know this, but I was going through some really tough times, and you helped me get through those tough times.
Wow.
Like through the conversations that we would have and stuff like that.
That's crazy, bro. That's
and I'm
awesome.
like, it's hard to even put that in words because, dang, I didn't think I was going to get emotional.
Nah, bro, it hits. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, like at the time, like it was just me looking out for a fellow human, you know, like exactly. I saw, I mean, she was younger than me because, you know, I was in a place of like being a teacher's aide.
Exactly.
But I could see that she was hurting, and I could see that she just needed someone to talk to, you know, kind of like desahogarse.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And, you know, and I tried to cheer her up the best that I could, and, you know, encourage her to talk to someone who would listen to, like maybe a parent or guardian or even another teacher.
Exactly.
And yeah, like she's like so happy now, like her life is so different, and like that's just like it made my whole week, you know, to have that experience. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's true.
Anybody out there, I encourage you to, if you can put out some positivity into the world, even if it's a stranger, like just do it. If you have the opportunity to, you don't know what the ripple effects, like Jason is saying, like you're gonna have down the line, whether that's personal or business wise, or in any type of circumstance.
Exactly. It's all love. Like I said, like they're like, even with fellow photographers, right? Like I don't hate them or they're not my competition, you know. Not that that sounds cocky if you just heard of that by itself, like, oh, they're not my competition.
Yeah.
But I mean that in the nice way, which is like, I want them to eat too. I want them to
see them
exactly succeed and grow. And it's not even about like, oh, they're bigger photography. I mean, like, I don't even who quantifies that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm comfortable within my scope and I'm giving out my content, I'm happy. I like to see, like, even just like, you know, on social media, I know it sounds kind of weird, but just even liking their posts goes a long way, or commenting something quick like, hey, I love these photos. As a fellow photographer, even you have a better scope of it. But like, if you're in a certain industry, like, go comment on their posts, like, you know, go reshare it. People and this is a quote that I guess it even turned into a reel now, like this wording that they said, but it's like, we out there supporting like bigger artists, or, you know, for example, Bad Bunny or Post Malone or all these new artists that are coming up. And we're not hesitant to share their stuff.
Yeah.
But as soon as we see a friend doing something entrepreneurial, something small, and they're barely starting, like, that's when they need it the most, the marketing and support. We're like hesitant. I don't know what it is in our hearts sometimes. I don't know, it's the imperfection, or like whether they want to admit it, low key subconscious hating.
Yeah, could be.
Or it's just you're shy. I don't know what's going on. Like, you have your reasons why. But just do it, man. Like, there's nothing, especially if the page is public. Like, it's so easy as putting that little arrow, posting it, reposting it to your story. I've seen people post really dumb stuff on their stories, and they will not repost their friends' marketing or businesses. It's crazy. I'm like, how do you have the energy to put that dumb stuff and not post your friend's business? And that's the key word right there. They're friends, which is weird. Like, if it's a stranger's other business, I get it. You know, you don't have no correlation to that. But when it's your friend, do it, man. There's nothing you can lose. You're just supporting. And trust me, that person that is doing the business, they'll feel motivated. Like, oh, I'm getting traction. Yeah. Like, and then they'll kind of, you know, I don't want to say the keyword manifest, but it'll start building up.
Yeah, it'll build up. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Momentum.
It's momentum. That's
exactly.
the word.
Momentum for their business. So it goes from that, you know, it goes from that. And just get feedback too. I think feedback is important. Like, a true friend will give feedback like, hey, Levi, I like your podcast. I like this, how you do this, but you can do this. And then it comes from you too, to also accept it or not, or be humble about it. Same thing with photography. People have told me like, hey, you can do other filters, or you can do this type of aesthetic. And sometimes like you get like, ugh. But then you have to humble it down and be like, oh, you're right. Cause maybe
like, why not give it a shot?
Why not try it that way?
Yeah.
Exactly. If that's something that's trending, like, there's a reason why it's trending. Like, let me kind of guide it that way a little bit, but let me still stick to my vision. Like, it's about molding yourself and being adaptable. Cause they say after 25, you're not really, you don't adapt anymore. I don't know what's going on with the age. I think especially as men, like, our prefrontal what do you call it?
I don't know. This mess
the
up
part
here.
of your brain where basically like you're set in stone already.
Yeah.
You don't like the music really that much. You like the shows that you like. You like to do what you like to do. And sometimes we lose that part of us where like we still want to be creative. I think that's something we got to keep practicing, and
definitely,
especially in artistic values like us, you know, like doing this, photography, poetry, writing, art. Just motivate each other and keep those juices flowing.
Exactly. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, my last question for you.
What's up?
Tends to be the hardest one for a lot of guests. And someone actually did the reverse Uno card on me the other day, but here's the question, bro. It's music related.
Oh,
so
let's go.
I hope you like it. If you had to choose one song as your current live soundtrack, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question, bro.
Yes, sir.
Just one song?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Only because, I mean, we've never really done like a whole album type of deal.
I hear you. That no album would be too much. That's too much context. So right now I'm really into this artist named Brent Faiyaz. Have you heard of him?
No.
So he's like R&B / hip hop.
Okay.
And like what I like about him is that he's really raw with his words. And when I mean raw, like crudo, you know, like not raw as in like he lets himself out, like he cleans it up nice. Like como sale, sale. And then R&B is known as like very love music, very passionate. So there's this song called Rolling Stone. And it has double meanings, you know, like Rolling Stone and just the world of music is like an all shot, you know, a big shot.
Right.
But in his end is like he's a Rolling Stone, meaning like he's keeping it pushing, like he's pushing it to the next level, has the next level. But in that song, first of all, the music, the beat itself is it's fire, but the lyrics itself is like he's talking about his childhood. Like the reason he is who he is now is because of his mom, because he grew up with a single mom. I grew up with a single mom. So it's like the reason he is like the way he treats women, the way he treats life, the way he navigates himself is like a rolling stone. Like he just keeps on going. He says his dad is a rolling stone, meaning like he rolled out of his life. So it's very symbolic to that.
I see.
The way he treats women now, like the way he's handling that too. Like, hey, you know, I have issues. Like I grew up with trauma. Like I've seen a broken household, and now sometimes some of that toxicity comes and translates to his work now, like to forgive him, kind of thing. You know, he even says like, hey, I'm sorry if I let you down. But he's talking to also his fans, meaning like if he ever like stops doing music or something that he's passionate about, it's because he's trying to figure out himself. Same, that's happened to me, bro. Like there's been weeks where I don't post anything on my photography because I'm going through stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna go through the other way, which is like just posting sad stuff on my stories. Like I'm waiting for it to be content related to my art.
Right.
This is why I separate my personal account versus my photography account, you know, because I don't want people to know that I'm going through stuff or out and about versus my photography. Or I don't know, maybe you can give me advice. Maybe I can mesh them. Maybe more content, you know?
Maybe, yeah.
So that's
It's
another
not a
way to
bad
navigate.
idea.
Exactly. But that song, yeah, really hits. And, you know, and there's this phrase that it's going to sound kind of toxic, but I kind of mess with him. He says, like, you know, that especially with people, like, first, you know, I'm entertaining, and then I'm gaslighting, and then, like, please make up your mind. Like, he's telling that to the people. So, like, people find him interesting in the first place, and then later on, they're like, this person's kind of weird, gaslighting. What I'm trying to say with that phrase is, and you'll be like, what does that have to do with photography, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's like sometimes I'll be out of the normal photography with my work. Like sometimes I'll be posting random stuff on my, like for example, like branding stuff. Sometimes I be like posting music stuff on my photography page, just because, you know, I really find it not correlated to photography, but just I feel like people would value it. So I feel like that's something, just spice it up sometimes. But yeah, that song is one that's been recent. It came out this year, but yeah, if you want to listen to it,
Yeah, we're gonna look it up, plug it in, you know, a little piece, maybe look for that part that you're talking about.
Yeah, so
that sounds sick. Great song, I'm sure. Can't wait to hear it or listen
it's good,
to it, man.
It's good.
Yeah,
it makes you feel a certain way. It makes you feel, I'll say the word, man, it makes you feel cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so I have Instagram right now. I'm working on a TikTok. I'm like debating that whole debate of having a TikTok. There's reasons why. Maybe I'm older. I don't know. I still haven't got.
You gotta embrace the change.
I have to. So I'm telling my girl, like, hey, can you be my manager for TikTok? I'll send you all my reels from Instagram and put them there. But you navigate the whole ecosystem. You know. She says I'm down. I don't know why she doesn't want me to have TikTok. I think she knows that it's addicting, so she'd rather be addicted for me. You know.
There you go.
Like, all right, you suffer for me. But that's the plan right now. So, but on Instagram, it's tree.of.photography. Also my, you know, if you guys want to see my website, treeofphotography.com. I'm on Facebook, Tree of Photography. What else is there? I'm on TikTok soon, so the page is not there yet, but I'm trying to download it on my own personal one and see how it's navigating. Yeah. Any feedback, let me know. But yeah, I'm trying to put videos. Like I said in the beginning, I want to do videos. TikTok, it's where
TikTok is great for that, yeah. And it could really take off like much quicker than doing reels on Instagram.
Exactly. So I just need to embrace it, like you said, and be open-minded. And I think that's the next step.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
It's been awesome talking with you. Awesome catching up, you know, both on and off air.
Yeah, for real, man.
Thank you so much, you two out there, the audience.
Thank you, guys.
It's been Jason Ortiz on Raspberry Lemonade. I'm Levi. Have a lovely day. Take care. And if you would like to support the show, you want to tell them how they could support the show?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of mentioned it throughout the podcast, but there's ways of giving back in the sense of liking it, reposting it, sharing it, commenting, donating, whatever you want to do, really. What else you got? What
That's
other
it.
ways?
Like, comment, share, subscribe.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's it.
And engage with us.
That's it.
Engage with Mr. Levi here, please.
I appreciate it.
There we go.
All right. Take care, everyone.
It's
Been a Redbird Studio Productions. Hope you've enjoyed the program.